Hey, welcome back to my channel. I make weekly art tutorials, paint-alongs and vlogs, and in this video I'm going to be reviewing the Artistro brush paint pens. It's a set of 16 colours, 8 of which are basic and 8 of which are described as metallic. It comes in this nice black sturdy case, and to get a good idea of what exactly they can do, I'm going to be swatching them, I'm going to be doing some lettering, adding water to them, layering and blending, trying them on different surfaces, and then also doing a couple of paintings. These pens are water-based, they're quick drying, non-toxic, and described as being able to work on multiple surfaces. I decided to start off by lettering the colours that I thought they were rather than the colours they're described as being. And I did this, I guess, in one way by accident because I hadn't actually checked the back to see what the colours were called. And I kind of have two disclaimers about this. One is that I'm not what one would describe as like a marker person. They're not my go-to medium. I much more prefer paints like watercolors and just paints in general and inks. And the second disclaimer is that these were actually kindly gifted to me by Artistro, and I asked them if I could give them my honest opinion and make my own videos, and they said yes, go for it. So yeah, let's go for it. So I must say that at this point I was not impressed with the markers. And I was kind of trying to figure out, okay, well, what am I gonna do? This has been gifted to me and I don't like them. What do I do? Do I persevere? Do I ignore it? If you're enjoying this video so far, then don't forget to hit the like button, as it really does help out the channel. And keep watching to find out what exactly I was having an issue with and how the pens ended up redeeming themselves. And my main issue wasn't with what the colours they describe as basic, but more so the metallic colours. Like, they just didn't seem metallic. They seemed to have like this weird residue that made it slightly grey but not quite metallic. The silver that you can see described above actually looked black to me. The pink, which is a basic colour, was later on you'll see was actually red. The bronze looked orange. So I was just having like a lot of issues with the metallic colours, and yeah, at this point I kind of felt a bit stuck. But things did start to improve. Because it was a gift and because I'm not used to markers, I decided to continue to persevere and to really experiment before I make up my mind as to whether like I hate markers in general, I hate these markers or whatever. So I decided to try and add water because it said that they are water based. I wanted to see if I could turn them into like watercolors and perhaps use them that way, do paintings with them. And tried as I tried, as you can see in the video, it doesn't work. Like, if you add water to them, it doesn't reactivate them, it doesn't turn them into paint. They smudge a bit, but that's pretty much it, and certainly not enough for me to kind of use that effect to paint with them. So then at this point, I realized that actually the colors are listed on the back quite clearly. So I decided to write them out again, this time with the actual name of the colors as opposed to the colors that I thought they were. And at this point, things started drastically improving. The colours flowed much better, the brush pens were nicer to use. And I think that a reason for that is essentially that I hadn't like activated the pens before. I hadn't used them before. I just kind of used them straight out of the pack for the first time. And perhaps the same way that sometimes you have to like shake Posca pens in order for the paint to start, this just kind of needed some more time to actually activate. And I could see it more significantly with the metallic colors, because in my sketchbook they're not metallic at all. They just had like this weird effect but weren't metallic, whereas when I'm actually lettering on the watercolor paper, which is the second time that I'm using them, just a few minutes later, they were like significantly more metallic. Like, you can actually see the effect. I could recognize that silver was actually silver. The bronze did still look orange to me, but at least it was kind of like a shiny orange. And the purple was so beautiful to look at. The green was really nice. The blue, the silver, the gold, like the colors were just so much better than they were in my sketchbook. So now I'm feeling a bit more inspired. I want to try and experiment even more, because it seems that the more I experiment, the better things are getting. So I start swatching out some of my favorite colors. The first blue is metallic, although you can't see that at the moment. And the first green is also metallic. Then the second green is not. Then what I'm swatching now is gold, followed by yellow. So I kind of thought, oh, let me do the metallic version and the non-metallic version of that color. And then I wanted to see, okay, can I use these pens on top? Can I like layer on top of them? And the answer is yes and no. It is dependent on the marker that I'm using and the color that's underneath. So the gold pen layers beautifully. Like, it's just so nice to put on top of, I think, almost any color really that I tried. The yellow unfortunately didn't layer, like, doesn't layer very well, so I can't use it to kind of go on top of colors. I can if I like press down and let the paint seep through, but certainly not enough to kind of get a nice picture out of it, just, you know, random block shapes. And then also with the yellow, I was worried, okay, does that mean that the pen like will be permanently stained? But as you can see, I only had to do a few strokes on a clean piece of paper to kind of clean out that pen. So that was something that's good as well. Like, I'm not going to damage the yellow by painting on a color I shouldn't, for example. And then the dark colors layered completely fine on top of everything. The best results seem to come by having a light background and then using a darker pen on top. The only exception to the rule being the gold, which seems to be able to go on any background at all. That being said, I can use light colors on dark backgrounds. It's just that, one, there's some transference. So for example, the yellow will pick up a blue background and it's not as clear. I can't get as crisp lines, but it is possible. The only other thing that was slightly disappointing was the white. I was hoping that the white would be like a Posca pen that I could use to do highlights, and maybe in theory I can, as long as the background isn't actually like this paint. So I don't know if it will work better on watercolor painting, for example, but you can kind of see on here that it's not got like, it doesn't really pop out. It's not really like a highlight, it's more like a chalky effect, which isn't really something that I tend to go for. It seems crazy to me that this pen can actually write on glass, but indeed it can. And I did try a number of different colors, but I'll just show you me writing color in blue with the metallic paint, and it was just so nice. It doesn't it does bead up a little bit, and it isn't permanent. So I got a wet towel and I just wiped it off, and it was able to come off quite easily after. So it's good if you just want it there for a little while, but not if you're looking for a permanent solution to like label your glass jars, for example. Next, I wanted to see, okay, can it actually do the same on tin? And I love Coca-Cola. It's so bad. This obviously isn't sponsored by them, but God, I wish it was. And yeah, same thing. I used a gold pen to write gold on it. This did have more beading than the glass, and it wasn't completely opaque. So even though I'm painting over some black writing, you can kind of see it shining through. Not completely, but certainly enough. And I wasn't able to layer like on top of that even when it was dry. When it was dry, I did try to see like if just holding it will make it come off, and it doesn't, but I could easily wipe it off if I wanted to. So again, it's not permanent. So now I want to try and paint with it just to see how different it is, because again, I don't actually know if these are paints, if you're meant to use them for painting or if you're meant to use them for calligraphy or brush lettering. I think in theory you could use them for both, because as you can see, it's working well for both. Like, I'm managing to get some really good coverage. It's not eating or tearing up the paper, although this is watercolor paper, so maybe that's why. Although I feel, looking at the color selection, that perhaps is not leaning itself quite to painting, because for example the red appeared more pink to me. The colors are quite bright. I didn't have a color to do this skin tone, but I did find that if I layered two metallic colors on top of each other, then I got closer to what actually looked like a brown to me rather than the brown that was supplied. It was nice looking at the hair that I could actually layer blue on top of black, so you can actually layer colors that are lighter on top of darker ones, and this didn't actually transfer like the yellow did. And again, I was just able to cover so much with a brush to just get so much color down. It was so nice to paint in that way. But yeah, it's working quite nicely. If you've watched my goals video, then you know that one of my goals for this year is to try and do portraits and to learn how to do portraits. So I thought that this would be a very good opportunity to like experiment with that. Since I'm experimenting with a new medium, why not also experiment by doing a portrait, which I haven't done in over a year. So again, don't judge me too harshly on this, but you can just see the colors, like the metallic colors, as you can see, are just shining through. And I was so inspired by the process that I decided to try to paint on canvas. And the main reason that I thought of this is because it does say it's multi-surface, and also I have this small canvases that I have been meaning to do acrylic paintings on for quite a while, but I just haven't had the chance to, I haven't had the time. So I thought, okay, maybe it will work, and it worked so nicely. I did decide to go back to floral, something that, you know, I'm a lot more comfortable with, but again, just try and experiment with block colors, and it worked like a dream. Because they are brush pens, I'm able to do fine details as well as big strokes, and using them on canvas just got me to loosen up to try and do something different, and I really enjoyed the process. So much so that I actually enjoyed using these Artistro brush pens on the canvas more than I've enjoyed using Posca pens or even acrylic paints on canvas. And the only reason that I wouldn't use these all the time for like my canvas paintings or for experiment and doing thumbnails is just the color range, that the colors in the pack are not the colors that I would normally use. So these brush paint pens are affordable. I can use them on multiple surfaces. I can do both thick and thin strokes with the same pen. I can do painting with them. I can do brush lettering with them. They're non-toxic. They don't have an offensive smell. There are metallic colors, and the gold is chef's kiss. It doesn't leak through the paper, even in my sketchbook and the watercolor paper, and it's easy to clean off if stained. Some of the cons that I've mentioned are that it's difficult to layer light on dark. The white pen doesn't really like pop out as one would expect. It's difficult to blend them, so better to kind of use them if you're doing like block styles. They can't be reactivated with water, so you wouldn't necessarily use them with a brush. You just use the pen as a brush pen, and the color selection isn't as cohesive as I would like. I obviously can't tell you whether or not you should buy these pens. I can just tell you that I enjoyed using them. I loved experimenting with them, and I also have a 10% discount for you if you wish to get them yourself. I'll leave the links down below in the description as well as on the screen. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you've enjoyed this video and that you found it helpful and useful and entertaining. If you've made it this far into the video, you already know you're an MVP, and I really appreciate you. Let me know if you've made it this far by telling me which piece you prefer, the portrait or the florals. Thank you so much, and I will see you next week. Bye.